Oh yeah, we've hit that milestone. My net worth has surpassed $300,000 since the last update. Despite all the turbulence in the market, this is the power of just ignoring all the FUD and continuing to do what you would normally do. So this is another video in my net worth series. At some point each month, I'll take note of where my net worth is sitting and I'll make a video on it. I have 9 assets I include for the sake of this video, as well as 5 liabilities. So let's get started with the assets, shall we? Asset 1, cash, $31,868.77. Up a bit from last month, but considering I worked an entire month and my cash only went up by about $4,000-ish, you'd expect a bit of a higher bump in cash. Well, I had some decently sized bills last month, which I mentioned in a prior video. Asset 2, stonks, $11,287.73. A slight rebound from last time, since the market has kind of just drifted up since then. And well, we had a recent spike recently. And all the stocks I hold went up as well. A rising tide lifts all boats. Asset 3, crypto, $2,168.09. Same deal as stocks, just slowly rising. Asset 4, gambling/punting, a cent, 1 cent. I only have this in Sportsbet since $5 is the minimum deposit you're allowed to make, and Sportsbet allows you to watch NBA games live, so I've been watching the playoffs recently. What insane action, absolute cinema to be honest. But you need funds in your account to do so. It's kind of like $5 to watch NBA games in a way. And I gambled $4.99 on some game that I lost. Classic, I can never get an NBA bet right. I did make a good amount recently via gambling, but I withdrew all of that money. No reckless double or nothing attempts here. I've taken a big W, quit while I'm ahead, I've made enough for now. Asset 5, superannuation/my retirement account, which is 90% invested in the S&P 500 and 10% invested in the ASX 200. This sits at $64,888.70. Oh, would you look at that? It's almost like the huge market sell-off hurting people's retirement accounts didn't matter at all, and it was just fear-mongering from the mainstream media. It's basically back up to where it was a couple of months ago. Yeah, I did have some injections from my employers since then, so some of this increased value was due to my employment, not stocks rebounding, but give it another couple of months and we'll be at a higher value than we were months prior. Asset 6, real estate, $553,125.65. So, huge changes here. My home builder has been building my house fast. What you're seeing on screen is like the progress of my house in literally like 4 to 5 weeks. I believe they're building it fast due to there not being much work around my local economy at the moment, so it's a lot easier to book in tradesmen to get work done, since there isn't much other work to be done. Meaning you don't need to wait like 2 weeks for the electrician, which holds up the carpenter, which holds up the plumber, and then you got to wait for those guys to have time, which holds up the rest of the progress in the house, etc., etc. So like the tradesmen get in a lot quicker than they usually do. That's what I suspect anyway. So as I pay my home builder, the value of my house increases, because it obviously is closer to being an actual house, meaning its value is higher. What looks more valuable to you, the concrete slab or the half-finished house with most of its exterior work complete? Exactly, the one with the exterior complete. Now what I've been doing is adding the amounts I've paid/the bankers paid to the value of this home. Some people will argue this isn't a correct way to value a house. I agree to an extent. In some cases, the value of a new home will be lower than what it costs to build it, since there's extra margins involved in building a new house in the area versus one that was built like 10 years ago in the area. But there's 2 primary reasons I'm calculating things this way anyway. 1, comparable sales in the local market are similar to what the total cost of my home is anyway. So all in all, my home will cost around $600,000, land and house. But the land was valued $50,000 higher than my cost price recently. So put that total cost at today's prices at around $650,000. Now comparable sales for similar houses, aka 4 bedrooms, are higher in this local region, but let's just be conservative here and say the value of my home will be exactly what it would cost to build today. Even then, I got a lower price on my home build due to signing a contract before the recent government mandates that pushed up the cost of building new homes. So if anything, the current cost at today's prices would be higher than $650,000. The point is, it's not like my home will cost me $650,000, but its valuation from banks is more like $500,000. The total $650,000 really isn't far off what you could expect when it's fully built. This also matches up with what realestate.com has for my home value too. No clue how they've managed to work this out, because the house isn't even built yet, but there's likely some data they have that tells them what sort of house is currently being built on my block of land. The same can be said for property.com.au, the same figure. Again, I'm not 100% sure how they've calculated this, but they've also arrived at the mid-600s. And here is another property that is literally only a few streets away from where mine is. I've literally driven past this specific house several times. I've added a bunch of scribble and text so no one can reverse image search this and potentially dox me. But this house/land size is larger than mine, but it has the same number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and car spaces in the garage, and yet it's valued a bit above $1 million. The reason I show this is to show the value of my property isn't some outlandish figure I've pulled out of my ass to prop up my net worth for the sake of a YouTube video. If anything, my guess, and the guess of the property websites, is a bit too low. But I'll get a proper valuation once it's actually built. Okay, cool, so $650,000 as a conservative value when your house is ready. But your asset amount is $553,125.65, so why isn't it $650K? Well, because it's not fully built yet. It's almost there, but it's not fully ready. And reason 2 I'm calculating my net worth this way is because obviously my house, even as it stands right now, has a lot of value. It's obviously not worth $0, and if I don't include the increased value as we go along, then my net worth will decrease each month as I have drained my bank account and my bank loan has gotten larger and larger, so I have lower assets and higher liabilities. So I'll have a really low net worth for months, and then once the house is built, then if I suddenly include the value of my house in my net worth, which obviously I would, it'll just skyrocket by more than $500,000. Not a consistent way to track things. If I was to run into some extreme financial hardship, I could get a good amount of money for my house as it stands right now. It's not like it's valued at $0 just because it's incomplete. There is some value to it currently. So I do understand the point of view that this isn't a conventional way to track net worth, but what's the alternative? Not to include this, but include my decreased bank balance and higher mortgage in the meantime? The house is obviously worth something. There's only about $95,000 worth of loans left before it's built. The house is worth something in the meantime, and basing its current value off its current cost actually matches well with similar homes in the neighborhood, as well as data from real estate companies too. So, $553,125.65, that's what my sixth asset is worth, being real estate. Asset 7, business, $530. I've increased its value since last time due to an increase in sub count and revenue. I also mentioned this in some other video in this series, but relaying back to the financial hardship thing, if I was in extreme dire straits, I'm sure I could sell off the stuff I own for the values I've assigned to these. The reason the YouTube channel has this value is because you've got some ad revenue coming in, as well as having 2,000 plus potential eyeballs already. So there's some element of marketing value here too. A very general guideline is a YouTube channel sells between 12 to 36 times its monthly profit, which would be the ad revenue in this case. The value I assigned of $530 divided by 12 equals about $44, which I have received in a month of ad revenue before. If we use the lower value, $530 divided by 36 equals about $14.72, which is close to my lowest ad revenue month. So I think this $530 value is a fair enough estimate. I would obviously never actually sell my channel, but if I had to, I think I could get this based off the fact you'd potentially make your money back via the ad revenue, and whatever video you'd upload after taking over, you'd already have a lot of potential viewers. Now, if they stick around or not is another story, but in some cases you just need that first few views to get kick-started, as opposed to starting from total scratch. Maybe I'm making up a heap of shit and no one would pay any money for the channel, but I have seen people pay for existing channels before. And hey, I gotta assign some value to the asset I own. Even then, it's not like my $300,000 plus net worth is made up of mostly this arbitrary value. You could cut this to zero and not even notice it in the final result. Asset 8, items, $4,200. This refers to a heap of random shit I own, such as watches, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, NBA jerseys, basketball shoes, gaming consoles, etc. Obviously, they all have value, like collector's items. And if I ran into financial trouble, I'm certain I could sell it all for at least $4,200. Asset 9, vehicle, $6,900. I've decreased the value of this recently because the car has had some issues. My tire blew out the other week. Fun. I spent some money recently on getting the car's tires realigned, as well as 4 brand new ones, so it has had some upgrades in a sense, but it's a car, and it's most certainly not a luxury or vintage car. It only goes down in value. So despite the upgrade or improvement, this car is getting up there in terms of kilometers traveled, so I've decreased the value. Now in other net worth videos you see, people don't include stuff like a car. I get it, but what is the definition of an asset? A resource controlled by an entity as a result of past events in which future economic benefits are expected to flow to the entity. Is that not what a car is? A resource, aka my mode of transportation, controlled by an entity, aka me, I own this, as a result of a past event, such as that one day in September of 2021 when I went to buy this car, in which future economic benefits are expected to flow. Well, this car takes me to both of my jobs, and you can sell this car for money, so is that not what an asset is? Yeah, I have no intention of selling it, otherwise I'd have to buy a new car, but is that not the same with stuff like your retirement fund / stock portfolio you never intend on selling? And don't companies consider plant and equipment an asset, even if they have no intention of selling it? Their plant and equipment just helps them generate income, the same way my car does by hauling my ass to both of my workplaces. No matter how you want to look at it, I personally include it. You can exclude it if you want, but if you had a car loan, would that mean you include the loan as a part of your liabilities and not the car as an asset? Even so, it's not like my net worth is mostly made up of my car value. Its value is not much at all. You could remove this from my net worth as well as my business, and my net worth would still be above $300,000, since most of it is in like retirement funds, cash, and real estate. So that's all for the assets. Tallying up everything I own that's worth some value, we have a total asset count of $674,968.94. Not bad for a single 28-year-old male who stuffed up his career early on, putting him about 3 years behind schedule by my calculations. But I went to uni, and I don't live in a country with free tertiary education, and obviously the house I own wasn't paid for all in cash, meaning I have a student debt and mortgage, as well as another liability. So let's talk about the icky liabilities. Oh my god, ick! It gives me the ick. Liability 1, credit card, $266.27. Now in the past, I never had a credit card in the past, until now. The primary reason I have this is to delay payments, so my money can sit in my bank account for longer, reducing the amount of interest I have to pay off my mortgage. For those who don't know how this works or don't have a mortgage, if you have an offset account, it works in the same way as interest in your bank account, but instead of getting paid money, you just owe less in interest on your mortgage. Because your mortgage rate will always be higher than whatever you could be getting from bank interest, this is absolutely where you should always park your money if you have a mortgage, never in a high-interest savings account, since the high-interest savings account is never as high as the rate on your mortgage. So the longer my money stays in my account, the less interest I pay, since interest is calculated daily. So the more days you don't pay, the more days you have to reduce the interest that you pay on your mortgage. Thus the reason for the credit card. The savings you get from doing this aren't huge, but it adds up over time. Liability 2, car loan, $0. I just include this because it's a very common liability you see in these net worth type videos. Paid my car in cash outright years ago. Liability 3, student debt, $42,296.55. The same as last time, although there is the potential that Labor will cut this by 20% within the next month. To be honest, I don't think they will. I think it'll get blocked by something, but let's just see. For now, student debt balance remains the same as last time. Liability 4, tax debt, $0, no tax debt owing right now. But that'll change in a few months. Liability 5, mortgage, $314,534.91. Big jump from last month. Because my home build has rapidly progressed, the shackles are growing. There's a long way off before I totally pay this off. And there's still another $95,000-ish to be tacked onto this too. So tallying up all my liabilities, we have a whopping $357,097.73. Ouch. Never seen debts anywhere close to this large before. The joys of home ownership. Now the final tally. My total assets of $674,968.94 take away my liabilities of $357,097.73, equate to a total net worth of $317,871.21. This represents an increase of $26,125.21 from the prior month, a $10,000 boost from the government, as mentioned in my prior video. A market rebound and working my 2 jobs whilst being careful with my spending will do that. We had a huge increase of $136,611.05 in assets, mostly real estate, and a corresponding huge increase in liabilities too. We're dealing with much bigger numbers now. More money, more responsibilities. By the way, look how much fancier my net worth tracking document is compared to last time. It looks so neat and tidy now versus the old one. So this was another video in my net worth series. So what's with the title? What did Trump's tariffs have to do with anything? Well, nothing. Life kept plodding along as per usual. I bring that up because I see way too many people dooming and glooming now over what the news is telling them. Some businesses and some specific jobs will be way more impacted, yes, but that's the case with every administration. I've had friends in my local region lose their jobs because the government stopped funding this specific traineeship, but they moved on and things were fine months later. Just keep doing what you can. Chances are things will be fine. Keep improving, brah. So how's your net worth changed recently? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.